Chi è la prima domanda?
Come sei riuscita a convincere così tante persone? Come hai fatto affinché tutti credessero in un sogno così grande? Chi devi ringraziare?
Well, that's a wonderful question. The absolute first supporter that Plan for the Planet ever had was my teacher, because when I told my classmates that we should plant 1 million trees in every country, she then told me to sent me to the student council so I could tell them as well. And she then asked the principal of my school to come visit me in class one time so I can tell her about it as well. And through that, we found lots of quick supporters. And my parents were also incredibly influential. That helped. And of course, all the other children and youth that joined Plan for the Planet back then, and the 70,000 that have joined us since then.
I tuoi amici ti hanno aiutato o hai trovato ostacoli? Ti è mai capitato di essere preso in giro perché lo facevi?
Actually, mostly I found that people were incredibly supportive and very quickly understood that what we were doing, because they understood that this is about us, that we will be the ones facing the consequences if we don't manage to solve this issue. It's about our future. Most adults around the world will live 20, 30, or even 40 years, but many of us children and youth will still be around in 2100. And we will face the consequences of the climate crisis if we don't manage to solve it today. And I found that it's incredibly fun to tackle such issues if we work together with children and youth all across the world, and if you work together in local clubs.
Che sensazione provi quando pianti un albero e credi ancora nei motti che avevi lanciato da bambino?
I think that planting trees is one of the most beautiful ways to do something about solving the global challenges that we face around the world. Because with so many challenges we face, trying to achieve something is so hard to measure, and your impact is so hard to measure. But when you plant trees, you can watch these trees grow, and you can count these trees. And you know each one of those trees absorbs 10 kilos of CO2 every year. So you always know exactly what you've contributed. And it's an absolutely incredibly wonderful feeling to go back 10 years later and to see those trees that you planted grow and contribute. The absolute first tree I ever planted, the one that we saw in the slides earlier, was actually planted at the entrance of my school. So then for another 8 years, I walked past that tree every single day, and it was absolutely wonderful.
Non hai avuto timore di lanciare una campagna così provocatoria nei confronti dei politici che basta parlare, piantiamo un albero? Che cosa ti ha spinto a credere così tanto in te stesso?
I'm not sure if I understood your question entirely. I don't think we are starting a campaign against politicians, because we very much need politicians to help us. A lot of what we do is talking to politicians to try to convince them to help us in planting trees or in general in fighting the climate crisis, because we very much need them to solve this issue. It is such an incredibly big challenge that we cannot solve it ourselves as children and youth. We need everyone to help, to join us and help. And actually, when when I planted my first tree back then, I didn't think that it was going to be a big organization. It wasn't like we wanted to start an organization. We were just a couple of kids planting trees. And I think we never really thought about what it meant, and that made it so easy for us to do. We were never scared or afraid or how difficult it might be, because we never really thought about it. I don't know if now, now that I'm 21, I would be as bold and I would make those kinds of decisions, because you learn so much and you experience so much in life that you get afraid of failing, but we didn't even think about that back then.
Se tu dovessi usare una parola o una frase che rappresenta la tua sfida, quale sarebbe? Ti è mai capitato di voler smettere di farlo o di mollare?
Try what?
Sì. Se tu dovessi usare una parola o una frase che rappresenta la tua sfida, quale sarebbe? Ti è mai capitato di voler smettere di farlo o di mollare?
So, I think the word or the biggest challenge that we face is mobilization. It is convincing people to start acting and doing something. Because this is not a challenge where we don't know the solutions. We know all the solutions to the climate crisis. It is only about implementing them. So it's all about mobilizing people to join us and to do something. And towards the second part of your question, if I ever was in doubt, absolutely. We've been planting trees for 11 years, and while we did that, there were so many important climate conferences, so many international conferences where the governments of the world came together, and there was a much hope that they would solve this issue by coming to an international agreement. And nearly every time they met, there was another huge disappointment. Nearly every year, we were again disappointed because no real agreement came about. And at these conferences, much more was destroyed with the lack of such an agreement than we were able to do with all our efforts of planting trees. So of that can be incredibly demotivating. But at the same time, we try to then focus on our own successes, the things we achieve, the fact that we know that every tree absorbs 10 kilos of CO2, and focus on that. And there were also, I don't want to sound too pessimistic, some global successes, like the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. Even though it's not perfect, it's an incredibly important step in the right direction. Because as part of that agreement, all the countries around the world promised that they will keep global temperature rise below 2 degrees, and every government of the world made a pledge of what they are going to do in an attempt to achieve that goal. And even though these pledges are not enough, we need to do our best to make sure that these governments all actually implement their pledges.
Thank you so much, Felix, for all what you said.